Well, here we are in game week for Penn State, and it seems Coach Brown has decided not to release a depth chart, mostly because Coach Franklin decided not to release a depth chart. It is pretty common for the first game of the year among some coaches. It seems to be a real thing this year. Coaches don't like doing it or not doing it. Fans don't like it, but that's where we are. So I'll make up my own depth chart and a little bit about why those are my guesses. Now, there aren't really a lot of big changes, just maybe some suppositions and some variations. Coach Brown did say that pretty much everybody we expect to start will start. And no starters injured. At least not as of today. A few backups who might or might not play. So, yes, there is mystery. Anyway, let's take a look at the offense. And if you're a West Virginia fan, you can guess most of the starting line. We have Milam, Rimac, Frazier. Then it's between Yates and Hubbard. And we have Nestor. The real question, of course, on the line isn't so much whether it's Yates or Hubbard who starts at guard, but whether or not moving to guard ups their game. Coaches think that they are better suited for guard. Hoped that they would develop at tackle, but some of the lateral movement and quickness just wasn't there. Guard is a different story. You don't have to be able to get out to catch those speed rushers. It's a hope. I suspect Nick Malone will be the backup at most of the positions if anything happens. And I think the starters will go by far most of the game. Simply because most of the backups are pretty darn young to be seeing game experience at Penn State the first game of the season. I know they'd probably like to get some of them into the game. We, of course, hope it's not due to injury. Receivers, well, of course, the biggest changes are with Ray and Gallagher. The wide receivers, starters will be Carter and Bram. That's pretty much set. Ray will see playing time. How much depends on getting over a bit of an illness he had last week, but hopefully we will see some significant time just because he's doing well. The backups, Polk and Clement were listed behind Carter. I think Polk is more likely to move inside. That's not certain. I tend to doubt Clement will see time at Penn State, again, because of the youth and environment. Behind Bram was Preston Fox, E.J. Horton, and I think that'll stay the same. And of course, Horton will largely be a situational player. The slot, or slots, as it were, I think that'll be a lot by committee depending on the situation. Gallagher will play in the slot. And Coach Brown said, Gallagher will definitely get some special teams play and almost definitely some time as receiver. The others, we've got Aaron, Polk, Malashevitz, Williams, Massey, and most of them could see opportunities depending on the situation. Tight end, Taylor and Davis will likely both play a lot. Again, situational. And we may very well see both of them at once. Quarterback's going to be Garrett Green, barring some very strange event. Whether or not Marchiol will get a few plays, I am not so sure. A lot of people expect him to see some significant playing time. Since decision making was the deciding factor in who starts, I am not sure Marchiol is going to see the field under these conditions. But pressure can shape us one way or another, so maybe we'll get a look. Running backs, no big surprises. Donaldson will start. Anderson, Johnson, White, all likely to see playing time, each for different reasons, which again means situational. And we will almost certainly see some two-back sets, and quite often one of those backs splitting out. On the defensive side, the line, expect Martin, Lockhart, and Vestorinen. And then expect to see almost every other defensive lineman available. I do think we will play at least 8 guys, maybe 9 or 10. Maybe they'll make it to that 11 mark, just because it's going to be necessary to keep the line from getting worn down. And a lot of people are saying, hey, West Virginia may hang close for a while, and then Penn State's going to wear them down third and fourth quarter. Rotation on the defensive line is going to be possibly the biggest key to keeping that from happening. If those number 2 and 3 guys are good enough, pardon me while I take this call. If the line is good enough, then we have a shot. We have to be able to stop them in the fourth quarter. Bandit, Bartlett will start. We'll definitely see Bradley. Will we see Hurd? That will depend on the situation. I think they'll want to get him in there if the situation is right. We need to see what he can do against this kind of competition. Mike linebacker. Well, guess what? That's going to be Koba. We should see Austin Cave, because Koba's going to need a break. If Austin Cave is good enough to, so that Koba is not completely shot by the fourth quarter, that's another big plus. Koba is going to have to be able to do a lot of rushing. He, at the end of last season, he was great at finding that opening and getting into the backfield. And whether we're doing, run blitzes, pass blitzes, it's going to take that kind of pressure. And we got to have Koba as fast in the fourth quarter as he is in the first. The will, general feeling is that Lathan is most likely to start. I expect to see Favres get good playing time. Now, of course, Favres doesn't, none of them have game experience in this position. But Favres does have game experience at WVU on special teams. He's been on the field game conditions. That may be a deciding factor. And of course, who starts isn't necessarily going to factor into who finishes. If the starter has problems, look for the next guy. I don't think Cutter will play. He'll probably be on special teams. I don't expect to see him on defense unless things get kind of strange. But he does have that instinct for the ball, and that can be big, especially in the running game, filling the gaps. Spear, McLaren or Dixon, expect to see both of them. I don't expect to see Collins. He's not as big, and run support is likely to be the biggest factor for Spear. So we'll see the bigger guys, and then they have to be able to cover when it matters. The safeties, Burks, big surprise. Wilson is likely to be the other safety. Seems to have moved ahead of Floyd, but there's also word that Floyd has been injured for the last several days, so I don't know if he moved ahead of him because of the injury or just moved ahead. Every word about Wilson is good, and I'm looking forward to see him play. If Floyd isn't ready, definitely going to need somebody else to play back there. So that's going to be one of the big questions. Who's going to be number 2 at that spot? Might play Wilcox, who he got a lot of mention from Coach Wright for getting hands on the ball, which suggests he can be disruptive, but seemed he dropped every interception opportunity he got. So, good beginning, bad finish. That might cost him playing time. Other options would move McLaren, since he was at safety before, or Ruffin started at safety and can play every spot in the defensive backfield and would play any other place you asked him to. Man, he is not the most talented player to ever walk onto a field, but man, I wish him well every time. The corners. Oh man, who is going to start at corners? Not a clue. But we've got 4 guys who will all see a lot of playing time, and it may break so close to even that it doesn't really matter who starts. But Wilson, Lamp, Spells, Miller, and Bishop are all going to be out there. And it may end up depending on who is best at stopping the run. Because we do expect Penn State to do a lot of running, just like they expect us to do a lot of running. However, I happen to be one who expects West Virginia to do a good bit of passing, not just running. So is Penn State going to try to pull the same thing on us? I don't know. Whether or not Ruffin will play at corner will probably depend on whether he's playing at safety. On the special teams, most things should go as expected. The one question is going to be in the return game, and whether or not Beanie Bishop is going to take over the kick return spot, whether or not he's going to take over the punt return spot. He's been making a push for both. And of course, Polk was brought in mostly to be a kickoff return specialist. If Bishop has passed him, it probably means that Bishop is that good, not that Polk isn't as good as expected. Polk showed what he can do. And Bishop came to West Virginia to get a chance not only to play against more passing, but also a chance to be a returner that he thought he was going to get at Minnesota and didn't. So I like what I've heard from Bishop. I like what I've seen. And if he is the returner in the game that he is in his heart, we're going to see something good. Now, Preston Fox may still be the punt returner when this game starts. He had some good things happening at the end of last season. So we're going to see how it plays out, and we're going to see it pretty soon. Christmas is almost here. Are you going to be able to get to sleep the night before? You going to take an afternoon nap so you're going to be ready? Or are you going to be out tailgating? However it plays out, I'll be watching. And I will do one or more videos about the game once I've had a chance to go back and look closer. And I'll do that win or lose. Meanwhile, if you've been hearing some noises in the background, there's a cat that I need to be talking to. I'll see you guys later.